The Blessing of the Stray, the Chivalry of the Son of Sarah. A narrative of desert providence and the hidden heart of a warrior. Our story begins with a man named Shakir, a dweller of the northern regions of the Arabian Peninsula, some a century or more ago. Driven by the necessity to provide for his kin, Shakir sought to journey south in search of honest labor. He scoured the encampments for travelers bound in that direction and eventually found a caravan departing in a few days' time. However, there was a predicament. They were to travel by camel, and Shakir possessed no mount of his own. His kinsman advised him, saying, "Go to your cousin, Mar. Perhaps he will grant you a camel for your journey." Shakir sought out Mar and said, "O cousin, I find myself in need of a mount for my travels, and I vow to return it to you upon my safe arrival home." Mar replied, "Indeed, I have camels, yet they are ill-suited for the rigors of travel." When Shakir inquired as to why, Mar explained, "Because this particular beast refuses to follow the herd. If your vigilance wavers for but a moment, it will stray into the unknown." Shakir, undeterred, insisted, "Grant me this camel, and I shall watch over it with the utmost care." Mar consented, saying, "It is yours, then, as you have accepted its burden." When the day of departure arrived, Shakir set out with his companions. After several days of travel, as the midday sun ascended to its zenith and the heat became a searing weight, the caravan decided to halt, as was their custom. In those ancient days of summer, travelers moved only in the cool of the dawn and the respite of the dusk, resting while the sun was at its fiercest. They dismounted, partook of their midday meal, and surrendered to sleep. Shakir, exhausted by the road, was overcome by a profound slumber. As the afternoon light softened and the party resolved to continue their trek, Shakir mounted his camel and set off. However, sleep once again claimed him while he sat atop his mount. He remained oblivious to his surroundings until the shadows of sunset stretched across the sand. When he finally awoke, he was struck by a chilling silence. His companions and their herds had vanished from the horizon. His rebellious camel had strayed into a different path entirely. Shakir dismounted, hobbled the beast's leg, and resigned himself to fate, saying, "I shall perform the evening and night prayers, and on the morrow I shall search for my comrades." He ate a few dates, drank a draught of water, and slept under the canopy of stars. At daybreak, Shakir's ears caught the distant, rhythmic bellowing of a great herd of camels. Joy flooded his heart as he exclaimed, "Praise be to God! People are near." In the vast desolation of the peninsula, then as now, the greatest fear was to be lost in the desert, to succumb to hunger, thirst, or the predatory hunger of wolves. Shakir led his camel toward the sound and discovered a lush pasture. Leaving his mount to graze, he ascended a nearby hill to survey the source of the noise. From his vantage point, Shakir beheld a magnificent herd, nearly 100 camels, tended by a shepherd. Nearby sat a sturdy, powerful young man, watching the animals with an air of calm authority. Shakir approached and offered the greeting of peace. The young man returned the greeting warmly, "Welcome, O guest. Pray come and join me." He then called out to the shepherd, "Milk one of the she-camels that we may honor our guest." When the milk was brought, the youth asked, "From whence do you hail, my brother?" Shakir replied, "From the northern reaches of the peninsula." The youth welcomed him once more, and Shakir drank until his thirst was quenched. "I have had my fill, may God bless you," Shakir said. The youth urged, "Drink again." When Shakir insisted he could not, the youth said, "Then give the vessel to me," and he began to drink until the milk was gone. He then commanded the shepherd, "Milk for us a second camel." Shakir watched in bewilderment, wondering to himself, who could possibly drink all this? The youth drank the second portion and turned to Shakir, asking, "Do you believe that I resemble Mishan, the brother of Jala?" Mishan, known as the brother of Jala, was a legendary figure famous for his heedless camels. He earned this title because thieves dared not approach his herd. A stranger could sit as a guest and be served milk with Mishan's blessing, but to attempt to drive his camels away for theft was a death sentence. It is told that a thief once tried to strike and drive his herd, to which Mission warned, "O youth, leave my heedless camels alone, or I shall slay thee." The thief persisted, and Mission struck him down instantly. The youth then ordered a third camel to be milked. As he drank, he challenged Shakir, "Am I the stronger, or is it Mission, the brother of Jala?" Shakir replied boldly, "Mission is renowned for his terrible strength and ferocity, whereas you seem occupied only with drinking milk. Perhaps you are stronger if strength is measured by the gallon, but as for the deeds of Mission, you do not seem to be of his ilk." The youth merely laughed at Shakir's blunt assessment. Suddenly, a cloud of dust rose on the distant horizon, the telltale sign of galloping horses. The youth, leaning back with an air of nonchalance, remarked, "Thieves are coming to plunder the herd. Between 10 and 15 riders, I should think." Shakir, astonished by his lack of urgency, cried out, "You claim to be like Mission, yet he was a knight who did not spend his hours drowning in milk. You sit there reclining while 10 or 15 riders descend upon you. If you are truly a knight, rise and fight for your herd before it is stolen." The bandits arrived, driving the camels and the shepherd away. Only after they had fled with the spoils did the youth move. He grasped his spear and sword, let out a thunderous cry for his saddled mare, which came galloping to his side, and gave chase. 2 hours passed before the youth returned, leading the herd and the shepherd, along with several of the bandits' horses. Shakir observed that the youth's robes were drenched in blood, yet he bore not a single wound. It was clear he had dealt a lethal reckoning to his foes. The youth dismounted and said to Shakir, "Do I resemble Mission, the brother of Jala, in your eyes now?" Shakir replied, "Indeed, you are as brave and mighty as he, for you have proven your valor by vanquishing your enemies with such haste." The youth then asked Shakir of his own story, and after hearing of his plight, he pointed toward the horizon. "In that direction, you will find a tent inhabited by 2 elderly men. They are the true masters of this herd. Go to them and ask for camels that you may return to your wife and children, and take one of the captured horses as a gift from me." Shakir thanked him profusely and sought out the tent. Inside, he found 2 aged men. He dismounted, offered his greetings, and they replied, "Welcome, traveler. There are sheep here. Pray, slaughter one and prepare a meal, for our old bones no longer permit us to do so." Shakir gladly obliged. As they sat, the old men asked, "Did you encounter the youth with the camels?" Shakir recounted the entire ordeal, the youth's incredible strength, his initial nonchalance, and his heroic defeat of the 15 riders. One of the old men turned to the other, who was the youth's grandfather, and said with a sigh, "Behold what you have done with your grandson. I told you to wed him to Nura, whose father was a legendary warrior, for you deemed the boy weak. But you insisted he wed Sarah, for he loved her." He continued with a grumble, "Look at this, son of Sarah. If there were true greatness in him, he would have slain every last thief and allowed none to escape." The grandfather replied, "The boy recovered the herd and defeated the raiders, and for that we thank God." But the other insisted, "He is a coward. He should have left none alive." Shakir marveled to himself, which is more extraordinary, the youth's courage in defeating 15 men alone, or this old man's grief, because the youth did not slay them all. Shakir remained with them that night. In the morning, one of the elders asked, "What brought you to these lands?" When Shakir explained his search for a livelihood, the elder said, "Return to the youth and tell him to give you 5 of the finest camels. Take these dates and this clarified butter as a sign of our command." Shakir returned to the youth, who sat reclining as before. Seeing the signs, the youth said, "What did they grant you?" Shakir replied, "May God preserve them. They granted me 5 camels and some dates for you." The youth smiled, "And I shall add one of my own, making the total 6. Shakir departed, reunited with his original camel, now possessing a herd of 7 camels and a fine mare, a magnificent wealth gifted by the youth and his forebears. Thus, in a brief span of time, God granted Shakir a bounty he could never have dreamed of, all because of a camel that refused to stay the path. And so ends our tale. Lessons and insights derived from the story. Divine decree and seeming misfortune. Shakir was grieved when he lost his companions, yet this straying was the very catalyst that led him to a wealth he would never have attained otherwise. Look beyond appearances. Shakir initially dismissed the youth as a mere glutton for milk, yet in the hour of crisis, the true courage of a knight was revealed. The sacred custom of hospitality. The spirit of the desert is embodied in the youth's reception of Shakir and the hospitality of the elders, despite their physical frailty. Integrity and gratitude. The elders sought to reward Shakir's presence and news, and the youth added to their gift out of personal chivalry and appreciation. Contentment with fate. Shakir accepted a flawed camel from his kinsman without complaint. It was this very flaw that unlocked his fortune. The legacy of valor. The youth reclaimed his herd not merely to protect his property, but to uphold the honor and martial prowess inherited from his lineage. If you enjoyed the story, support us by liking and subscribing to the channel to see more.